Hello. We are moving into lesson 262. 262. How does that feel for you? Today, let me perceive no differences. Let me perceive no differences today. So we are moving more into the idea of oneness and seeing only one sun, which I was thinking today is like such a foreign concept, but don't even say like that you believe it, just entertain the idea if you're caught on it. Father, you have one son. Just entertain it. Father, you have one son, and it is he that I would look upon today. He is your one creation. Why should I perceive 1,000 forms in what remains as one? Why should I give this one 1,000 names when only one suffices? For your son must bear your name, for you created him. Let me not see him as a stranger to his father, nor as stranger to myself, for he is a part of me, and I of him, and we are part of you, who are our source, eternally united in your love, eternally the Holy Son of God. So that's our lesson today. It should be good. As you see differences in the world, as you have experiences of separation, can you counter that energy with this lesson? Let me perceive no differences today. We who are one would recognize this day the truth about ourselves. We would come home and rest. Oh, good. I need a nap already. We would come home and rest in unity, for there is peace, and nowhere else can peace be sought and found. So I guess I'll use this as an example because it's very current. We're in the midst of a political season, and duality is running rampant, like literally making you choose a side. Choose a side. Which side are you on? Which person are you voting for? Which team do you want to claim alliance to? And put a sign in your yard. I will be putting no signs in my yard. I am going to do my best to not perceive differences today. We are all one. We are all one son. I know that this seems different for me to like put the son and father label on it. But if we are all part of source, truly we are all one. Yet we give each individual part a different name when really that is not needed. We who are one would recognize this day the truth about ourselves. We would come home and rest in unity, for there is peace. And that's what we truly want. Tina Jesus, for lesson 262, talked about capitalism and how our capitalistic society has trained us to not share. Capitalistic society trains you to keep to yourself and only help yourself, only look out for your own best interests. It will encourage you to take more than you need and literally refuse to give and refuse to share. That's capitalism, baby. So in a more beautiful world, we do share, we do help. We will see a need and know that we have the ability to help, and we will share our ability. And yes, that could be money, but that could also be non-physical assets and abilities and creativities and hands-on ways to help. Perhaps the most thing you can do to be helpful is send good thoughts. So today, be free. to share your non-physical assets and creativity. Today, ask yourself, where am I hoarding? And remember, we are all connected, so be free to share. My first thought about that is whenever you're in the checkout line and they're like, do you want to round up to the nearest dollar to help blah, 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 blah. And, you know, sometimes you're like, sure. And then sometimes you say no. Sometimes you say no. And I feel like my justification for saying no is like, they're like, do you want to help feed whatever? And I'm like at a grocery store and I freaking know how much food they throw out. Like if we wanted to feed the world, we certainly could, you know. But a lot of times I'm like, I am trying to support children right now. Thank you. But then other times I just round up without even listening to what they're asking for. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it's like, why are they asking us whenever this is a multi-bazillion dollar industry company? And like, just go ahead and give them money then if you want to, buddy. But then sometimes you do feel very generous. So the ego mind sometimes wants to help, sometimes doesn't. But we're limiting ourselves when we think that we can only help with money. So you can help with your energy. You can help with your prayers. You can help with your kindness. Maybe you have a skill set that you can literally just help somebody. I'm sure there's lots of other creative ways to help people. Maybe you can teach people how to help themselves. There's lots of different ways, but be free to share your physical assets. Where am I hoarding? Now, with that said, I am a Taurus. And when I open up my cupboards, I like to see more than enough. One, because I don't want to be running to the store all the time. Two, it just makes me feel well taken care of because I was raised in a capitalistic society. So, I mean, abundance is upon me for sure. I'd like to abundantly close this drawer behind me. I like having things in order, right? Closing drawers and having the shelves stocked. But if you're being stingy and like trampling people at the supermarket to be able to buy things that you don't even need, that's lack mentality for sure. And that is hoarding on some level. Jesus was talking about if you have a ton of money and there's someone in your family who's just struggling hard, you know, and maybe it is the right time to give. But also Jesus did graciously acknowledge that sometimes we do help people more than what is, expected, and they just continue to squander and not help themselves or blow it on drugs or whatever. And then what do? Well, you don't give them any more money, right? So, I mean, Jesus kind of in a way went off on a tangent, but it was an interesting tangent because I guess it definitely was, related. Let me perceive no differences today. Because if I'm seeing everyone as an extension of the sonship, why would I let anybody starve to death? But then, I mean, I feel like, I don't know if I'm just being argumentative, but then I'm acknowledging their, I don't know. Sometimes I don't want to disempower people by helping them when I know damn well they can help themselves, And I also don't want to feed into the fact that they're limited and weak. But would I let somebody starve to death? No. Would I teach them to eat dandelions? Yes. I'm a very rough queen. Off with their heads. So let me perceive no differences today. Father, you have one son. Sadie, shut up before you make yourself look like an a-hole. And it is he that I would look upon today. He is your one creation. pathwaysoflight.org. Welcome to the reading, A Course in Miracles Workbook Lesson 262, Insights. Let me perceive no differences today. Today's lesson is the practice of looking beyond the body to our oneness in God, which is always there. Today's lesson is the practice of seeing what is always the same and what is eternally true. Today's lesson is the practice of seeing past the ego. Today's lesson is about accepting the peace that comes with remembering unity. Today's lesson is about focusing on only what is true. Differences are always of the ego. Different bodies with separate minds is not what is true. Let me perceive no differences today. In this way, I accept the peace of God. Differences are the basis for all conflict. There can be no conflict between what is the same. We are told that the Holy Spirit sees the world we see, but does not believe it. He knows it is unreal, and He is in our minds to teach us to recognize the unreality of the world we think is so real. As we learn to accept His vision, we will still see the forms of the world, but learn to disregard them as meaningless. Thus, we will look past the forms to see the love that is the same in all things everywhere. With the recognition of love comes peace. For peace is an attribute of love. As we learn to recognize the unreality of form, conflict disappears. We are able to see beyond the form, and if the form appears to be acting out lack of love, we can recognize it as a call for love. We will naturally respond to this call with love. Now we become God's ministers, bringing His healing light to our brothers. We do not need to preach to him or correct him or try to make him change at all, for these would be attempts at changing the effect of error instead of changing the cause. We simply answer the call for love with love. The error is believing there is lack of love. Love is always the answer. In this world of apparent differences, the means of extending love, the form it takes, will vary according to what is most helpful. Of ourselves, we cannot know the form, for of ourselves alone we cannot love. Love is the recognition that we are not alone. By joining with Holy Spirit and letting Him guide us in the way in which to offer love in this world, we join with the love in our brothers. Thus, we can be truly helpful. It is what is the same in all of us that joins us together. What is the same is love and nothing else. Holy Spirit, help me to see what is the same in everyone and everything today. This is a perfect lesson for me today. I have been struggling with feelings directed toward an individual. It always seems harder for me to release anger and resentment when it is the other person's fault. I have tried turning it over to Holy Spirit and just keep taking it back. It was very helpful for me to read the above comments today. I was not thinking of her actions as a call for love and was not thinking that I needed to respond with love. Just as I was wondering how I was supposed to do that, I read the above paragraph reminding me that it is not my job to know the form love needs to take in this instant. That made me feel relieved. I also needed to be reminded not to preach or correct or try to change her at all. I am certain that is why I was having so much trouble releasing this. On top of everything else, I was feeling resentful because I needed to fix this and didn't know how. Again, knowing that this is not my job, I feel relieved. Now I feel like I can easily respond to her need for love with love and trust the Holy Spirit to guide me in the form in which it is most needed. Now that I think of it this way, I cannot imagine responding to her need for love with anything but love. Thanks so much for the timely reminder. pathwaysoflight.org. That is definitely a good reminder. I ain't going to have no trouble at all not seeing differences today if I can't even keep my eyes open. All right. We awake? Yeah. Yeah, we're awake. Awake enough to know that any type of difference or conflict, let's try to remember it's a call for love. And then let's remember it's not our job to figure out how to fix this. Let's just be open to being guided. I think that's a good one. I really, really, really do. All right. So where are we hoarding love? Where are we hoarding extending love? Or maybe resisting or blocking is the better word. But it's like you don't have to empty out your bank account trying to, feed the world when honestly there's enough money and resources, like, not to blame the government, but we could feed everybody. We could house everybody. And then the ego's like, but they didn't even work for it, I don't know. It's not my job to know how to fix the world, but it is my job to see the love in everybody, to see past the illusions and recognize the sameness, the same love, the same God, the same source, the same oneness. So that's our little job today, our little work today. Let me perceive no differences today. So that means you have to look past form. You have to look past differences. You have to look past illusions and try to see the oneness. And then all the little buggers who are acting out, they're asking for more love. They're asking on some level to recognize that love themselves. So anyways, do your part to not be all stingy with extending love, and do your practice of seeing no differences today.